wild animals shouldn't have to negotiate for their right to exist. Welcome to our hen house. I'm Jasmin Singer.
I'm Mariann Sullivan.
I wonder if we should say, like, welcome to the Hen Report. This is the Hen Report. Like, I am a little confused about what our hen house is vis-a-vis, like, what our podcasts are now that we have several a week.
All right. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Welcome to the Hen
Okay.
Report.
Welcome to the Hen Report. This is the Hen Report.
I don't think we have to
I'll-
say this is the Hen Report if we say welcome to the Hen Report.
That's true. This is us.
Are we recording
love-
this? Because it's idiotic.
Yeah, we're totally recording this.
All right, let's move on.
Okay. So Rising Anxiety comes out on Tuesdays, the Hen Report on Thursdays, and the long form interview on most Fridays, and the Animal Law podcast on the last Friday of the month, which means this Friday, and you'll talk about that in a little while. And we're on YouTube, so please subscribe and like wherever you listen. Thank you. And thank you to the podcast listener who wrote to me, because I briefly mentioned last week that I was going to be taking a very quick trip to Vermont, and it was a very quick trip to see my family. My mom lives there, and I surprised my niece and brother. It was my niece's 15th birthday, and one of our podcast listeners wrote to me with suggestions on where to eat, which was so sweet.
It's really
Like,
nice.
I know. Like, would you do that if you listened to a podcast?
No.
If someone was like,
I am
I'm
not
coming to
that
Rochester.
nice. I mean, I think we've well established I'm not really that nice.
Well, it was very sweet. And so the drive is super long, even if you just go straight there. It's like, I don't know. It says
It's
like
even longer if you stop at every vegan restaurant and every thrift store on the way.
And every garage sale. Don't forget the garage
sales too. Like, what do you do with all of this junk that you buy?
Okay, first of all, I never go to garage sales. This was just fun because we were passing them. Second of all, we get rid of things for the things that we buy.
All right.
Third of all, I do have like a little bit of a side hustle type thing where I sell some stuff at a local kind of, I don't know,
Seems
thrift
very
store type
complicated.
thing.
Very complicated.
But it, and more.
As long as the
mostly
stuff
is
goes out though and doesn't just come in, it's fine.
Mostly. It mostly just
Well,
goes
yeah.
out
I
and
mean,
doesn't-
occasionally, I guess you find something you actually like.
Yeah. So it's nice to have like a little vacation feeling, even if it's just like it was a 3-day trip. The bookended days were entirely driving, which was, I will say the infrastructure for the EVs, the chargers, it felt pretty good on this
That's
trip.
exciting because I'm
Yeah.
always nervous.
'Cause
And I'm
that's- 'cause
getting
in
more
Roch-
nervous because,
I
like
know.
Trump wants to like take all of our EVs away.
My mom doesn't have an EV and she wants to get a new car. And I was like, get an electric car. And someone else who was there was like, you could get a plug-in hybrid. And my mom was like, what's everything? What is that? And so I'm sort of explaining to her what's this and what's that and the other. And I guess it sort of reminds me of like when people go vegan, or then someone in the room is like, or you could go like vegan until 6, or, I don't know. Maybe it's not, apples to apples.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
The person who said that was sort of like, why would you do that to yourself?
Well,
kind of thing.
They do have a point. I mean, your mother I don't think she drives long distances. So it's not that big an issue if you don't drive long distances. But she lives in a cold place too. And they do not hold a great charge when it's cold out. I've certainly experienced that. And, I mean, I think one of the biggest problems, and I experience this more than you do because you're usually with your wife. I'm usually alone. And some of the places where you have to charge, they're like deserted. And there you are with this really nice car. I have a really nice car. And, or I think it's a really nice car. And all alone in the middle of nowhere with the wind howling in the winter because your car loses its charge. There are reasons. I mean, we need better infrastructure. There are certainly reasons to do it. It is the right thing to do, I think, or as close to the right thing to do. Well, it's not as good as taking public transportation, but all right, I digress. It's the right thing to do, but it's not nothing. I think there are issues, and the way the government is right now, I'm not sure they're going to be resolved.
Yes. Agreed with all of that. But I think that like one point I just made that I want to go back to is when someone when their thought is, why would you do that to yourself? Like, why would you inconvenience yourself in that way? They're making it about the person as
Yeah.
opposed to the bigger
Yeah.
reason. And it reminds me of when people say, like, why would you go
Yeah.
vegan? Like,
Like, it
why would
never
you do that
occurs
to
to
yourself?
them that you might be doing it because you think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
People are
Exactly.
people are assholes, you
I
know?
do think that, like, in the case of my mom, if she got a plug-in hybrid, because she mostly drives locally, she'd probably almost always be just on
Yeah,
electric.
it would be totally fine. Yeah, it would be totally fine.
Well, anyway. So yeah, there was a dynamic. Like, families when they get together, like bio families, there's a dynamic. And
That's such a nice way of putting it.
like at one point we're like all at this Chinese restaurant, which by the way, I will say my whole family did order the vegan mock meat. And
Yeah, that's kind of
that
amazing.
it was a bit shocking. And my brother said to the waiter, like, if a meat eater came in here and wanted an analog that tasted as close to the real thing as possible, what would they get? And the waiter was like, get the General Tso's mock chicken. And
Of
he
course,
did.
yeah, the chicken is always the best.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was Meiwa as the
Oh, yeah,
distributor.
really the
Meiwa.
best.
But
I
anyway,
have some
so
Meiwa drumsticks in my freezer. I'm so
oh
excited.
yeah, from the vegan grocery
Yeah.
store.
Mhm.
Yeah, Meiwa is great. Anyway, so there was a dynamic. Like, my brother speaks very loudly, like very loudly. I don't think he realizes it. So then, there's always that part of it. And then, like, my mom's boyfriend is very sensitive to loud noises, and so he's like, "Can you take it down?" My
Oh,
brother
that's
doesn't.
hilarious.
And then my mom's
My
okay, there's
family,
like,
I
hold
have to
on.
say, my family is so easy.
There's like 4 people in the restaurant. One of them happens to be my mom's ex-boyfriend.
Oh my God.
So
That's
so
hilarious.
yeah, who my mom doesn't talk to anymore. But, like, I know him. He's your dog's, well,
Yeah, I hate
whatever.
him, by the way,
I know you do. Like,
because
yeah.
he's the one who abandoned Lulu, and I ended up with her.
Yeah, well, his mother had, and he didn't take Lulu, but yes. But anyway, it was all like, and so I look over at more, and she's basically like in the like in the movie theater with her popcorn. Like, she was just like so entertained by the whole thing.
Oh,
And
that
it
is
was
totally the right attitude with the in-laws.
and I'm such like an Alanonic personality that I'm sitting there like so embarrassed and mortified that my brother is speaking so loudly, and that my
I don't
mom's
think that makes
partner
you
is.
Alanonic. I mean, it's
No, no,
your
no, hold on.
family. Like, we grow
The
up like
tension,
having angst around our families.
the tension between that and like my mom's partner who's like, "Can you take it down?" And then at one point he gets up to like go outside and says it's because his back hurts, but I know it's because he's like inundated with the dynamic. And
All right,
yeah.
enough. Move on. Move
Okay,
on.
okay. So, I did have a lovely time with my niece. She is so cool. So when we were driving through the North Country of New York, which is like the top of the
Right,
Adirondacks,
right.
which I had to Google, by the way. I wasn't like entirely sure what was the North Country. And we were in Clinton County, New York, and I saw a little sign that was like "End dog tethering." And it was like this tiny little sign that someone like attached to like a
That's
post,
great.
like
Yeah.
and I was like, "Whoa." And I quickly write it down because I'm like, I just want to look into like what's going on here, what this campaign is. And I found that there's actually been a lot of press about very recently, like within the last couple weeks. Now, I just want to pause and say, obviously I know about dog tethering. It is not on my radar, like how much people fight it, how around it still is. Like that, I guess I'm more focused on farmed animal issues or something. So I just don't, this was like an education. I know it's fucking horrible to like, have it,
Yeah, and
and
some dogs are
disgusting
tied out like they're
all
all
the
the time.
time. Yeah,
It's insane.
I
It's
know.
insane.
It's
It's
insane. It's insane.
insane.
So there has been this like grassroots push in Clinton County to ban long-term dog tethering, and it has been shut down. And just to be clear, not the law itself, but the chance to discuss the law has been shut down for the second time in less than a year.
Unbelievable.
The county legislature refused to allow a hearing despite what is overwhelming community support. And of course, it's overwhelming community support. It's like that tote bag that you love, like who would eat a lamb, or
I think it
who
says who
the
the
who the
fuck would
who the fuck would eat a
eat a
lamb? Like,
lamb.
who the fuck would be okay with tethering dogs?
Yeah.
And this isn't just about chained dogs, even though that by itself should be more than enough reason. But they're like silencing the citizens
Well, I
who
can see why, because what would, like once you have to actually articulate this issue and bring attention to it with a hearing, like what are the arguments in favor of allowing
yeah,
people to tie their dogs out? I mean, there aren't any arguments other than
no,
I mean, it's probably like hunters or something, and there probably are a lot of hunters and or
yeah.
breeders or whatever. Like, but it's not there's not going to have one good argument that's going to like people are not going to go to this hearing and hear both sides and then say, "Oh, now I understand why they won't." And it's not banning dog tethering. I mean,
No, let
you
me just tell
described it
you,
to me, and it had a lot whole list of qualifications of,
it's
how
nothing.
long and how much you could.
Exactly. It's like welfare reform on
Yeah.
crack. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like prohibit tethering during extreme weather
Yeah.
or set minimum
And set
standards.
time stand. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
or like the type
like
of
how
tether.
what kind of course I wouldn't allow a hearing on that if I didn't want to vote for it because like you're going to sound like a monster, which is what
Yeah,
you
well,
are.
that's what you are. Yeah. I mean, it's
Fascinating.
really,
You ran into this big controversial issue just driving across
I
New York
know.
State. I
Yeah.
love these
I
people, like all these people out there, like doing all of this work fighting for animals. Like we are everywhere.
We are indeed
And
everywhere.
this apparently is quite the fight. I read that article you sent about it. We can put that in the show
Mhm.
notes.
Yeah, we'll put that in.
It's quite the fight. Like they've been fighting this for a long time. I mean, this is like takes over your life doing this, and there they are. Good for them.
Totally. So I don't know how to transition into this, but I'm sort of fascinated by this subject that you want to bring up
Oh, this is
relating
just, you went all the way to Vermont. I watched TV. So we both had productive weeks.
until your power went out and then you didn't
Right, my
watch
power went.
TV.
Well, it's because of the fucking heat. Like, here it is
Crazy.
June and I am sick of summer. It
Me
was
too.
what, 95, 98 degrees yesterday. It was
Something
insanely
It
hot.
was so hot.
And of
It was
course,
so hot.
that's when the power, but anyway, that has nothing to do with anything. I watch TV and I watch a lot of YouTube.
Mhm.
And one of the things I watch, and I forget to watch it, but I actually support this organization and I love what they do. And if you really want to like, just watch good people doing good things, this is a great thing to watch. It's called Mossy Earth. They do rewilding, but their rewilding isn't just a matter of like, letting the land go and letting animals. They rebuild like degraded ecosystems. And then, they try different things and it's all around the world and some of them are underwater. The one I was watching about was underwater. And I'm not talking about that, but I do recommend watching them. But in this video where they had actually rebuilt a coral reef or rebuilt the infrastructure on which the coral then was kind of willing to grow. So it was kind of a half fake, but half becoming a real coral reef. And they were very excited about all the animals who had moved in. And there was one point where in this very frightening sequence, a moray eel appeared, and they were like astounded. And this moray, I don't know what moray eels are, but apparently they're very dangerous. And so they didn't know it was there, and it came out, and they were like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And then they saw this fish get eaten by the moray eel, and the host, who I just love, and is just a lovely man, and he cares about the world, and he cares about the animals and their habitat. He was just excited that he had seen, or that was what he was conveying, and I think it was honest. He was excited to have seen this moment in nature where this eel ate the fish. And I am not like nature is nature and eels eat fish. I know that. But but like my reaction is at least a moment of saying, "Oh my god, poor fish." And there just
Right.
wasn't any of that. Like it never
Yeah.
entered his mind to think, oh, that must have been unpleasant for that fish who died this violent death. And like I say, I'm not trying to fix nature. I'm not saying we can. It's just that I think that is it that people don't let themselves have those feelings, or that just hardly anybody has them? I mean, if it had been a dog who had gotten eaten, I am sure he would have thought, "Oh my God."
Right.
He would have been devastated. I really think. Is it just because it's a fish that probably enters into it? Though I
Yeah.
doubt he's one of those bozos who thinks that fish don't feel anything. I don't know why I'm talking about it exactly, but it really struck me. It really struck
Yeah.
me to
No,
feel
I
because it's kind of that difference between the environmentalists and the animal rights people, like in a nutshell.
yeah, totally. I think it's fascinating to find these kind of cognitive dissonance examples that for whatever reason really strike us,
Yeah.
and this
Like,
is an
what is it about
example.
us that's different? And is there a
Yeah.
way to like, I think the animal rights movement is more and more finding ways to work with others who don't actually share this, which I think
Mhm.
is great because you have to work with others. But I think it's notable when it occurs to you that, all right, there's something different going on here in the way we see the world and the miracle of
Mhm.
life and the miracle of conscious animals and the miracle and the horror of all this consciousness everywhere.
Right. So I mentioned that, I was hanging out with my brother. My brother, I don't think has ever sent me an article about veganism that came onto his radar. He gets,
Well,
like
why would an
those.
article on veganism come onto his
No,
radar?
no, but he gets like these digests, and
Oh, okay.
sometimes an article for whatever reason breaks through the noise. And so he sent me an article from Veg Out, and he was like, before I knew what the article was, he was like, is that like a legitimate website? And I was like, yeah, yeah, Veg Out is
Oh
it's
my
great.
God, my brother's sending me an article from Veg
Yeah, so
Out. This is
that's
so exciting.
and
He's
it's like,
almost there.
yeah, yeah. But then the article is called Why Vegans Have Higher Rates of Depression. And as a longtime vegan, I've got some thoughts
Yeah, well,
on
I
this
mean, the
article.
full title, isn't it? I studied why vegans have higher rates of depression and
Oh,
discovered a hidden psychological pattern that's destroying careers and relationships for everyone. I think this guy is a
okay.
psychologist, or I don't know whether he's officially a psychologist. But
Yeah,
yeah, so I
Justin
looked at this
Brown.
article. Yes, it's by this guy
Mhm.
named Justin Brown. It's a very recent article. And in the first place, there was that research, and I think we talked about it at the time, that came out that showed that vegans have higher rates of depression and anxiety. And I think we debunked it at the time. It was stupid. We didn't
Mhm.
believe it was true. But he believed it was true. And maybe it is true. I don't know. I mean, I think that you could certainly make a case for it. I just feel like the research didn't hold up as far as I was concerned. And he actually came to the conclusion that it wasn't about veganism. That wasn't the reason. So that's interesting. But then basically what he found out made it possible to not worry so much about being vegan, because what it's about is that there's a psychological cost of living by strict ethical codes. He's
Oh
not
my
against
god.
ethics, but if their identity becomes too involved in their ethical code, it isn't good for people. And so basically, therefore, they should ease up. Other examples he gives are Christians questioning their faith, but terrified to lose their community. I think that really happens. Democrats who disagreed with party positions but couldn't voice dissent. Like, really? Like, is that a major source of depression? Um, or like attachment parenting, like people get so wedded to the theory of attachment parenting that they can't notice when it's not working. And this is what happens, he says, when any beautiful choice becomes a psychological prison. And of course, both of the examples he gives are people who were getting sick because of their strict adherence to veganism, and she was experiencing digestive issues and brain fog, and she just couldn't bring herself because she was such a like, fuck this shit. This is so stupid. I mean, I thought the
Yeah.
comments also were excellent. I
I
don't
mean,
have them in
like,
front of me right now. Like, of course, I mean, none of this is true. Vegans aren't fanatics who are like trying. Veganism is a tool to help animals. It is not a religion that you can't you don't deviate from it because there's no reason to deviate from it. And eating animals causes harm. It's like giving up something that causes harm. And also, it's not proven that vegans are more depressed. And also, if we are more depressed, obviously we should be more depressed because we face the truth about what is happening to these billions of creatures who are suffering this kind of coordinates with my last story, doesn't it? We're the ones who
Mhm.
see, all right, it's not fun to get eaten by the moray eel. All right, it's not fun to be living in a factory farm and having your throat slit. Like, why wouldn't
Yeah,
we be
no,
depressed?
he's basically pathologizing the choice to live ethically, and saying the problem is that we're too identified with our values. Really? Like, he's pathologizing people who have a moral
Well, you know
baseline
what he's
that
basically
I
saying? He's saying, like, if you want, like, just eat some meat. That's what he's saying.
I mean, the solution is not to water down your ethics so that, you know, so that the ethical choices don't hurt so much. And this idea, this idea that vegans are more depressed, like, we should be talking about mental health in the vegan world. We should be making space for complexity and for struggle
Yeah, but
and for
he's
support.
claiming there's
But
a mental health crisis among vegans. Really? Like,
I
I
mean,
think we're the only mentally stable people in the world. I do.
it's a if your identity is rooted in justice and in refusing to participate in violence against others, it is not about ego. It is about solidarity, and that is not a psychological trap. That's integrity. And, like, I'm very offended by this
Yeah, no, I'm
article.
seriously offended by this because it's pretending to be so friendly. Like,
Yeah,
if you want to eat
exactly.
meat, just don't write for or vegan magazines and tell us why it's
Okay.
okay.
I was a little shocked that Veg Out published
I
it, to be
know. I mean,
honest. And,
I don't know who he
the
is. Like, maybe
I don't know either, but in any
I don't
case,
know what he eats. He's a writer, entrepreneur, Singapore, intersection, conscious living, personal growth, and modern culture, blah, blah, blah. Fast
no,
changing world.
my guess is he wrote the article and then
When
shopped
he's
it
not writing,
around
he's off
for
grid in his Land Rover. Oh, great. Destroying ecosystems left and
no,
right.
I've been on the other side of pitches like this before. I would very strongly suspect that he had no idea what Veg Out was. He just wrote the article
Yeah.
and then tried
Yeah.
to
All right.
get
Let's
it
move on
published, and
because
it
I
worked.
hate him. I don't want to talk about him
All right,
anymore.
there's a Faunalytics report that
All right. I'm just going to,
dives into
yeah.
what works and what doesn't when running vegan challenges like
I
Veganuary.
really liked this. This is talking about vegan challenges. I think everybody should everybody who wants to do like maybe a new form of activism, or if you're already participating in vegan challenges, because there's a lot of great information here. It's talking about things like Veganuary, vegan challenges where for in some way, there can be a lot of different ways people are challenged to eat vegan for, let's say, for 30 days or for a week or for, I don't know, a meal. The data is that there's a retention rate to veganism of between 10 and 28%. And but by the way, I don't think I mentioned this is in Faunalytics and it's by Bjorn Johan. 10 to 28% retention. They stay vegan or vegetarian. I think that's pretty high because as this points out, and he thought it was pretty high too. As this points out, that's it's a range, but it also doesn't really take into account how many people like eat less meat and get on that route. It can like people don't always change immediately, but how many people it starts on the route to going vegan or just on the route to eating less meat, and I bet it's a lot more than that. And some of the ways in which he says that the challenge affects people is their self-conception. This is like,
Mhm,
like your brother's thing, basically telling the Chinese waiter that he's a meat eater. He doesn't really eat this stuff regularly.
mhm.
That's like his self-conception. He's conveying it. Like if you're actually eating vegan for a while and making that decision, you start thinking of yourself as somebody who is or could be vegan. The foot in the door, obviously, trying it. Trying anything is always the first step to doing it. Attitude change, social norms, and meat disgust. Like, I like that. Like, some people probably really do start thinking, oh, this is really gross. And so I think this is really reassuring. Even meatless Mondays, I mean, Bjorn thinks will make people eat less animals after the challenge period, which, I've
Mhm.
always disparaged meatless Mondays as too little, too late. But I really am in favor of having meat Mondays. Well, not in favor, But a better compromise would be meat Mondays, where you go vegan for the other 6 days, and then the only time you eat meat is on Monday. But nobody's doing that. The thing I liked best about it is this thing he wrote on Blue Sky. This may even suggest that smaller community-oriented vegan challenges have a huge role to play in shifting consumption habits. Because one of the points that is made is this has to be a community. That one of the important things of doing it is to create this sense of community, not just asking an individual to do it totally on their own, but like this supporting thing. But he thinks that small community-oriented challenges might be even more effective than the nationwide pledges like the January, like at a school or a place of worship, on a campus. Like, this is the kind of community-based activism that everybody can get involved in. It's not that big to mount this kind of a campaign. I love it. I was very inspired by it.
I'm not sure I would have necessarily thought that that would have been your reaction to it, but I
What did you think
appreciate
I would
the
say? Damn this is stupid. Why don't they all just go vegan?
yeah, something like that maybe, but I appreciate that they didn't oversell the results, and I also appreciate that small shifts matter. I think that can make
Well, it's not
activists
really
feel
a
better.
small shift. I mean, all right, Meatless Monday is a small shift, but going vegan for like a month, like the January does, I think that's a pretty big ask. And still a lot of people do it, and then a lot of people stick. I mean,
So,
maybe my expectations were lower than yours, so you thought that everybody stayed vegan, and I was impressed that 10 to 28% actually stay vegan or vegetarian who weren't
mhm,
before. I think that, I
mhm.
mean, I just assumed that for most people, they do this for a month, then they go back, and hopefully it's a first step. But apparently for a
Yeah.
lot of people, it's the final step as well. I liked it.
Well, there has been a big step, a rare win for wildlife. Do you want to talk about this proposed
Okefenokee.
titanium?
Why do I know the name Okefenokee so well? Was it known in popular culture for some? But anyway, Okefenokee Swamp, which is in Georgia, is apparently an unbelievably valuable ecosystem. Loads and loads of animals who don't exist elsewhere, who are endangered. And it
Sandhill
has,
cranes, gopher tortoises, alligators, black bears, so many others as
yeah,
well, just to
yeah.
paint a picture here.
I mean, I've just read about it before that this mine, people wanted to put this mine in there that, they said, oh, it'll be fine. It won't cause any problems. And everybody else was saying, no, this is going to be a disaster. And according to this article in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, historic land deal halts mine planned next to Georgia's Okefenokee Swamp. And I just think, I just thought I'd throw this story in there because it's a victory. It's a victory for every single animal who lives in the Okefenokee Swamp. And it's apparently this fund, this is a huge campaign. There have been lawsuits, like loads of people have been involved. This has been years and years of fighting this mine. And the Conservation Fund, which is buying the land, the mining interests that own it are going to sell it, I guess, because they know that the opposition is just too great. And it just shows that sometimes you can win if you fight hard enough. I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah,
Little good
I like
news.
that. I like the powerful message that I think this sends, which is that wild animals shouldn't have to negotiate for their right to exist. And as we know, neither do farmed animals. So it's a good story. And is the animal law podcast that's coming out this
Oh,
week,
right, right,
is
right.
that also a good story?
I wanted to talk about that great interview. It's a little different than
How's
than
that?
the usual interview. It's with Raphael Fazal and John Adenatire, both of whom have been on either the Animal Law podcast or the Our Hen House podcast before. And they have written a new book, Animals and the Constitution Towards Sentience-Based Constitutionalism. And like I said, this is a bit of a departure since usually on the podcast we talk about a particular case. It's going on in the
Mhm.
here and now. And this is a very broad overview of the relationship between animals and the law. And about, let's take this out of moral theory and start talking about how we might get it into legal theory. And there could not be a better time, I think, to talk about what constitutions are, what they do, what they mean, what they're supposed to do, what they sometimes fail to do. and how they really memorialize the society we want to live in, and how, when it comes to animals, they don't do that at all. It's an interesting time to talk about making progressive change since we're afraid of losing our constitutional rights in so many ways. But in some ways, I think there's no better time to rethink what should be happening here. And this was a fascinating conversation. Both of these guys know a lot, not just about the US Constitution. We're talking more generally, and they have examples from constitutions around the world, some of which are doing a better job vis-a-vis animals than the American Constitution, but not a whole lot better. And
Mhm.
so I hope people listen to this. Like I said, it's not the usual, but I think you'll really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's cool. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that. We're just about out of time here. I want to just encourage our listeners and viewers to leave a comment on YouTube or a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps us with discoverability. So it's just like a tiny little thing that actually makes a big difference. And make sure you like this episode on YouTube. Follow us and share us on all the socials so you can find us at our hen house. And don't forget to tune into the Animal Law Podcast tomorrow. And that's it. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.